Nivarada Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jaya Gopi Jana Balabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Nanandana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhaktivedanta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhaktivedanta Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhaktivedanta Krishna Chaitanya Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jam Vishwapad Paramhamsa Parivajakacarya Astotra Sri Śrīmad Bhāgavatam Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki. Jam Vishwapad Paramhamsa Parivajakacarya Astotra Sri Śrīmad Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada ki. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai. Gaur Pramanande. Hare Krishna. So we're reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, 7th canto, 1st chapter, titled The Supreme Lord is Equal to Everyone, verse 35. Dehendriyasu hinanam Vaikuntha Puravasinam Deha Sambandha Sambaddham Etat Akhyatum Arhasi Dehendriya Suhinanam Vaikuntha Puravasinam Deha Sambandha Sambadham Etad Akhyatum Arhasi Dehendriya Suhinanam Vaikuntha Puravasinam Deha Sambandha Sambadham Etad Akhyatum Arhasi Dehendriya Suhinanam Vaikuntha Puravasinam Deha Sambandha Sambadham Etad Akhyatum Arhasi Dehendriya Suhinanam Vaikuntha Puravasinam Deha Sambandha Sambadham Etad Akhyatum Arhasi Dehendriya Suhinanam Vaikuntha Puravasinam Deha Sambandha Sambadham Etad Akhyatum Arhasi Dehendriya Suhinanam Vaikuntha Puravasinam Deha Sambandha Sambadham Etad Akhyatum Arhasi. Matadis. Dehendriya Suhinanam Vaikuntha Puravasinam Deha Sambandha Sambadham Etad Akhyatum Arhasi Dehendriya Suhinanam Vaikuntha Puravasinam Deha Sambandha Sambadham Etad Akhyatum Arhasi Dehendriya Suhinanam Vaikuntha Puravasinam Deha Sambandha Sambadham Etad Akhyatum Arhasi Puravasinam Deha Sambandha Sambadham Deha of a material body, Indriya material senses, Asu life breath, Hinanam of those devoid, Vaikuntha Pura of Vaikuntha, Vasinam of the residents, Deha Sambandha in a material body, Sambadham bondage, Etad this, Akhyatum Arhasi please describe. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Jai. The bodies of the inhabitants of Vaikuntha are completely spiritual, having nothing to do with the material body, senses or life air. Therefore, kindly explain how associates of personality of Godhead were cursed to descend in material bodies like ordinary persons. Purport. This very significant question would be difficult for an ordinary person to answer, but Narada Muni, being an authority, could answer it. Therefore Maharaj Yudhishthira inquired from him, saying, Etad akhyatum arhasi. Only you can explain the reason. From authoritative sources, it can be discerned that associates of Lord Vishnu who descend from Vaikuntha do not actually fall. They come with the purpose of fulfilling the desire of the Lord, and their descent to this material world is comparable to that of the Lord. The Lord comes to this material world through the agency of His internal potency, and similarly, when a devotee or associate of the Lord descends to this material world, he does so through the action of the spiritual energy. Any pastime conducted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead is an arrangement by Yogamaya, not Mahamaya. Therefore, it is to be understood that when Jai and Vijay descended to this material world, they came because there was something to be done for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Otherwise, it is a fact that no one falls from Vaikuntha. Of course, a living entity who desires Sayujya Mukti remains in Krishna's Brahman effulgence, which is dependent on Krishna's body, Brahmanohi Pratisthaham. Such an impersonalist who takes shelter of the Brahman effulgence must surely fall down. This is stated in the Shastra, Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 2nd chapter, 32nd verse. Ye anyar vindaksha vimuktamaninas tvayasta bhavat avishuddha buddhaya arhuya krichrena parampadam tata patantyata adonadvita yushmadangraya. O Lord, the intelligence of those who think themselves liberated but who have no devotion is impure. Even though they rise to the highest point of liberation by dint of severe penances and austerities, they are sure to fall down again into material existence, for they do not take shelter at your lotus feet. The impersonalists cannot reach the Vaikuntha planets to become associates of the Lord, and therefore, according to their desires, Krishna gives them Sayujya Mukti. However, since Sayujya Mukti is partial Mukti, they must fall down to this material world. When it is said that the individual soul falls from the Brahma Loka, this applies to the impersonalist. From authoritative sources, it is learned that Jaya and Vijay were sent to this material world to fulfill the Lord's desire to fight. The Lord also sometimes wants to fight. But who can fight with the Lord but a very confidential devotee of the Lord? Jaya and Vijay descended to this world to fulfill the Lord's desire. Therefore, in each of their three births, first as Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, second as Ravana and Kumbhakarna, and third as Shishupal and Dantavakra, the Lord personally killed them. In other words, these associates of the Lord, Jai and Vijay, descended to this material world to serve the Lord by fulfilling His desire to fight. Otherwise, as Maharaj Yudhishthira says, Ashraddheya iva bhati. The statement that a servant of the Lord could fall from Vaikuntha seems unbelievable. How Jai and Vijay came to this material world is explained by Narad Muni as follows. Om Ajnanatimmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Okay, so seeking the blessings of all the senior devotees and the devotees present, so I can say something valuable. So, it's a very nice verse, and purport is a continuation from the yesterday's verse, where Yudhishthira Maharaj is continuing to ask his question, and he's wondering, how is it that these Vaikuntha Vasis, they are falling down or descending to the material world. And we see that in the material world, when we have the material bodies, they are troubled with many different in many different ways. So here in the verse it's explained, Dehendriyasu. Deha means the material body, Indriya means the material senses, and Asu means the life breath, and how we are troubled by all of them. With the material body has many problems. One small toe gets hit by something and makes our life quite hellish. Our material senses always have a lot of demands, and we are constantly working to fulfill them, and it's a lot of struggle for existence, and trying to please them, trying to satisfy them, and even after a lot of work they still may not be satisfied. And Asu is the life breath or life air. In the Bhagavad Gita 4th chapter, I think 27th or 28th, one of the verses where Prabhupada explains how the life airs regulate different functions of the body, and how when there's problem with the life airs, it actually affects our bodily functions also. So people have a lot of problems with their bodies, with their minds, and it can cause a lot of grief, a lot of problems. And so here Yudhishthira Maharaj is asking that we know that the material body is a problem. So then, but then when you're talking about what he's saying, the Vaikuntha-pura Vasi, Vaikuntha-pura, how you have Mayapur, so we have the Vaikuntha-pura. So Vaikuntha-pura Vasi, like we have the Vrajavasi, so we have the Vaikuntha-pura Vasi, the people who are living in the Vaikuntha-pura. So he said those who are living in the Vaikuntha-pura, the Vasi is there, they don't have material body. Their bodies are not like us, full of problems. Their bodies are actually completely transcendental. So they're Sachidananda bodies. So he said, then how is it that they are forced to take birth among ordinary people, and they're descending to have material bodies like ordinary person? Prabhupada explains in the translation. So that is so unusual, and that is so strange, something that Yudhishthira Maharaj has never heard of before. So how is it someone from spiritual world is falling down into the material world? Because that is not how it happens. That's not how it works. So then what is happening here? And that's a big question. And as Prabhupada also points out from the verse previous to this one, so yesterday's one, it says, Ashraddheya iva bhati. Prabhupada said, the statement that a servant of the Lord could fall down from Vaikuntha seems unbelievable. So it's a struggle that many devotees also have, that how can devotees fall from spiritual world? And it's not just ordinary devotees like us have the struggle with that. Even Yudhishthira Maharaj is confused, and even he is wondering, like, how can that happen? And so he's asking that it's Ashraddheya iva bhati. It's almost impossible to believe something like that can happen. And so he's astonished. And but he's asking these, he's raising this question, and what Prabhupada is explaining in the purport is this is a very significant question. And so he's asking this very significant question to a very significant person. That's Narada Muni. And he's a great authority on the Vedic knowledge. So as we know that Narada Muni has directly heard this knowledge from Lord Brahma, who receives the knowledge directly from Lord Krishna. So he's a great authority on this knowledge, and certainly a worthy person to be asked. And so it's very exemplary the way how Yudhishthira Maharaj actually approaches Narada Muni and says that you are an authority, and actually Etad akhyatum arhasi, says only you can explain the reason. And so he's not only asking the right person, but he's also asking with the right attitude. And he's not just challenging Narada Muni, but he's actually asking with the right attitude. And that's the right way, that's the right approach. when we are trying to learn spiritual knowledge is that we ask the right person. It's very important. So a lot of time when we are trying for book distribution and when we approach people and then they say, oh, yeah, I know about meditation, or oh, I follow the application, or I look at the YouTube and I learn from there, or I just Google it. So, but Yudhishthira Maharaj was not interested in just doing his own research. Rather, he wanted to know from the authority who has already done the research. So, and now that we have these books, we have this knowledge, so actually it saves us all the research work. So we don't have to actually go and ask Google. We don't have to just go and ask any random person. Everything is explained in these books by these transcendental personalities. And if we actually just read them or if we just study them, then all the questions will be answered. And so here, Yudhishthira Maharaj, for his benefit, but also for all the people to come in the future, for everyone's benefit, he's asking this question that how is it possible? And because it's a spiritual subject matter, again, it has to be asked the right person who is actually qualified. So a lot of people, they like to discuss the spiritual subject matters among their friends and relatives and just come up with their own conclusions, because then they feel that in that way at least it's my answer and I'm not taking someone else's opinion on this. But actually our own senses and our own mind and our own judgments can often fail us, as they always do, and over-reliance on them is not always a very good idea. So it's always good to seek guidance from authorities who have actually understood this knowledge, who actually studied this from authorities themselves. So we are just hearing from them. It makes our lives so much easier, and it just saves us so much time and trouble to having to go through the whole studies of different people and different books. We can actually just read this and we can understand this. And so that's what Yudhishthira Maharaj is doing. And so Narad Muni is going to explain the future verses, and Prabhupada is explaining a little bit in this purport that actually the devotees, the associates of the Lord, they never fall down. So the word that's used is that they descend to this world. Just like the Lord, when He comes to this world, or His different incarnations, they descend to this world. They never fall down. And similarly, also the perfected devotees, Lord's associates, they never fall down from their position. They're always nitya siddhas. But sometimes, under the covering of Yogamaya, Krishna's internal potency, sometimes they forget, and or sometimes they forget the position, or sometimes they descend to this material world and seem to take a material body. And we also know the example of Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, who is an associate of the Lord, who is a friend of Krishna, and despite his great position and relationship, temporarily he seems to forget his identity, his position, and he actually even seems to forget Krishna's position, and he becomes completely bewildered and says, "Oh, I'm not sure that what I need to do now." And the purport, Prabhupada explains that actually, because he's Lord's direct associate, how is it that he can forget? And even Krishna smiles at it, that he's surprised that how can he forget? But actually, it's the work of Yogamaya. So Arjuna seems to be falling down from his position of Lord's associate, and is temporarily identifying with the material body, and seems to be confused. So yesterday's verse, Arjuna Sakapu explained how Jai and Vijay, they descended for two reasons, and they both are mentioned in Bhagavatam. So the third canto, actually, in the in the third canto, I think it's one of the initial chapters, is where this pastime is explained in detail of how the Kumaras are going to Vaikuntha and how they get stopped by Jaya and Vijay and they get cursed, and that's why they descend to this material world. But also in the same chapter later on, it explains how originally it was Lakshmi Devi who also got stopped, and it was her anger that also caused the whole incident to happen. And but then there's also the reason that it's the Lord who wants to, he wants to have a fight. And so when he wants to fight, he wouldn't just fight with any ordinary persons. So he decides, Jai and Vijay, okay, I want you to come and fight with me. And so, and yeah, so they both are descending. So therefore, we can see, and how also Bhagavatam very amazingly explains how Jaya and Vijay, when they're descending, and they actually first glorifying, how in the movies you have first the villain enters, and there's a great action, and there's a lot of glorification of the villain, like he shows a lot of strength and skills, and finally the hero comes and he kills them, and then the actor is even more glorified. So similarly, first the Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, great demons, very powerful. Hiranyaksha so powerful, he actually takes the whole earth and puts him under the waters. So massive, huge demon. And then how Krishna comes in the form of a boar, and as a Varahadev, he actually kills. He has a battle, and this battle goes back and forth, and sometimes Krishna is Varahadev is sometimes winning, and then sometimes Hiranyaksha is winning, and it's going back and forth, and sometimes Varahadev drops his mace, and so there's a whole lot of action happening. And the demigods are all watching, everyone is watching what's going to happen, and sometimes even the demigods get bewildered that, oh no, really, like Varahadev is going to be defeated by this demon, and then again he picks up the battle, and then finally the Lord kills the demon. So, and we have many similar pastimes. So Krishna wants to have a good battle, that's one of the rasa, is the chivalry. And so Krishna is a person, and just like we like to have a battle, we like to have a fight. So similarly, Lord also wants to like it, actually, because he likes it, that's why we like it. So that's his way of enjoying the rasa of chivalry with his devotees. But actually, again, coming to the point, is that because Jaya and Vijay are Nitya Siddhas, so they never fall. Bhagavad Gita in the 9th chapter, in the 13th verse, where Krishna says that Mahatmanus tumam partha devim prakritim ashritam. So he says that these Mahatmas, these great devotees who are engaged in my service, they are Devim Prakriti Ashrita. They have taken the ashray, they have taken the shelter of Devim Prakriti, my internal potency. And so therefore, it's the internal potency who is protecting them, and they never fall down from the position. And those who are surrendered, who are completely surrendered to the Lord, they actually never fall down from the position. Krishna also says in the later verse where he says, Ma Sucha, means that do not fear. He said, actually, you will not fall down. You will never fall down. The impersonalists, though, as Prabhupada explains in the purport, they can fall down, and they do fall down sometimes. And Prabhupada quotes this verse from Bhagavatam, where it's explained that the impersonalists, those who are jnanis and yogis, they are meditating and they are doing various penances and austerities, but because they are trying to achieve the perfection through their own strength, and they don't really have any devotion, they don't really have any shelter. So because they're just running on their own strength and abilities, sometimes they run out of the steam, sometimes they run out of the energy, and sometimes even if they reach the perfection, they can't hanging there for too long, because what the spirit soul seeks is the activities, is the relationship, and when they don't get that, even in the perfected stage of Brahma Jyoti, they eventually do fall down. Prabhupada also explains in Bhagavad Gita that many times the Mayavadi philosophers or Mayavadi scholars, sannyasis, they, even after reaching this highest stage in their journey, they do fall down, and they start some charity institutions, some education centers, some philanthropy, sometimes they get into politics. So and Prabhupada explains that how actually there is no pleasure in the impersonal perfection, and how I remember one time Gopanisha was mentioning that the only ananda they have is in their names. But actually there's no real pleasure, and so therefore even when they've reached the highest stage of perfection according to them, they still come down to a material platform and engage in the material activities. So it's very nice actually, and here Prabhupada explains very amazingly. He says that it is to be understood that when Jai and Vijay descended to this material world, they came because there was something to be done for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, when they were cursed and when Lord approved of it, Jai and Vijay didn't argue back. They didn't say, oh, but it's not my fault, we're just trying to protect your kingdom. How can that happen to me? I'm your devotee. They actually accepted because they understood that is Lord's desire of what is happening, and that Lord wants to fight with us. So they did accept their position, and so it's a great lesson for all of us to also learn how, as devotees, we are always ready to take what Krishna gives us, and we are happy to take whatever position Krishna wants us to. And we also have an amazing example of Bhishma Dev, who is a Mahajan, who is great personality, who is a pure devotee, but despite his very exalted position, he takes a position which is against Krishna in the battlefield, and he actually chooses to fight with Krishna because that's the relationship that he has with Krishna and chivalry. And so therefore he's taking that role despite the fact that it's going to bring him a lot of infamy, because in the whole battlefield, probably one of the most powerful warriors, one of the most elderly, most respected personality, just because taking a wrong side, he's going to, for the whole future generations, everyone is going to misquote him and misunderstand him. But he's happy to take that role just so that he can please Krishna and exchange a relationship that he has with Krishna and please him in that way. And so, as similarly as devotees, also we are happy to take whichever role that Krishna gives us for his pleasure, and we try to serve Krishna in that capacity, and we try to please Krishna in that way. And one thing that I was also thinking of in the same line is that, in the temple we might have, devotees might know us in many different ways. Oh, I'm a brahmachari, or I'm a such and such senior devotee, or I've been coming for the morning programs, I give lectures, I do this or that, I do many great services in the altar or in the temple room, etc. But whatever position that we may have and whatever respect that we may get, when we actually go out and book distribution, then no one really seems to recognize our position, and no one really stops us and say, "Oh, really? You are here? Okay, tell me, what have you got?" Because after all, you are such a great, respected person, a respectful person. No one really, you are a great or whatever in your home or in the temple. When you go in the streets, people look at you, and there's one lady, just a couple of days ago I was on books, and this one girl, and I tried to stop her, and she made this face, it's like, get out from here, like, please, like, just, got nothing to do with what you're doing, but what you got, like, just leave, And then she comes around and she sees me again, and she's like you again, like just go from. So she has nothing to do, But as devotees, we should still be happy to take that position, because Krishna likes that. Krishna likes us to serve him in that capacity, where we are introducing Krishna consciousness to many people, and that might appear that we are forced to take a lower position where we are no longer recognized as the devotees of Krishna, but it's a great position to take, because ultimately it pleases Krishna, and it pleases the spiritual master and other devotees, and again the whole, how the Jaya and Vijay, they are descending, so not just to have a fight, but also through that many millions of souls are going to be attracted to see Lord's pastimes, Krishna's pastimes, and in that way they are also becoming Krishna conscious. And so similarly, even going out and helping people, whether it's through book distribution, to prasadam distribution, in one of the ways of outreaching, we are introducing people to Krishna consciousness, and so many people, actually hundreds and thousands of people, they're getting benefited, and they're coming closer to Krishna. That's pleasing to Krishna for sure. And so that requires that we have to leave our comfortable position, just like Jai Vijay. They were very comfortably situated. They had a body which is completely spiritual. In Vaikuntha Loka, they have absolutely no problems there. They're doorkeepers, but it's not that anyone is just going to turn up there and say, ask for an entry there. So that is a very pleasant service, and it's a pleasant atmosphere. But they're giving that up, and they're actually going to the material world, and as Yudhishthira Maharaj is saying, they're going to accept material bodies like ordinary persons, So they're still ready to do that for Krishna's pleasure, and so we should similarly also be inspired to take that role and please Krishna by taking that ordinary clothes and going out and meeting people and helping them. So, and there's this nice verse actually, because when we are out there, or when we are out of our comfort zone, when we are out of this devotee association, but we are out there for the purpose of sharing Krishna consciousness, it's not just Sankirtan, but also even when you're going for work, or even when you're going to school, we keep the purpose in mind, is that we are going there to give, not to get. And so we are whether it's the money that we are going to get, or whether it's the skills that we are going to get, or whether it's the company of other people that we are going to get, with any of that we are going to use that in Krishna service and in Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan mission. And so in that way we are going out to be able to give. And so when we are going that with that mentality, with that attitude, then Krishna protects us, and he gives us special protection. It's a pastime in Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the Madhya Leela, where Mahaprabhu is in his South India tour, and when he meets Kurma Brahmana, and Kurma Brahmana invites him to his home for prasadam, and he's so pleased by having Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at his home, and he's saying that thank you so much for coming. And actually, please, now that you have come here, I said, please bless me so that I can be freed from all these material entanglements and I can just give up everything and I can just serve you and I can travel with you. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, please don't speak words like this. He said, actually, and then he gives this instruction, the very famous instruction that Jare dekho tare kaho Krishna upadesh, Amar agya guru hai tare idesh. He says that Jare dekha tare kaha. He said, wherever you go and whomever you meet, he said, kaho Krishna upadesh. He said, give the knowledge of what Prabhupada writes in the translation. They give the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita and Śrīmad Bhāgavatam to these people. And in that way become guru, in this way become teacher, spiritual master of the entire world or your land. And then Mahaprabhu continues and he says, is a kabuna badi betomara vishaya taranga punarapi eitani pabe mora sangha. He says, if you continue to do that, then he says, you will continue to have my association. He says, I will be with you. He says, I will not be separated from you. He said, because you are following my instruction of teaching this knowledge to others, he said, then you have my association all the time. He said, then you don't have to fear. So he says, don't worry about this entanglement. He said, actually, if you just continue to somehow or other try and give Krishna consciousness to others, teach the message of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam to others, then I'll be there with you and I'll be protecting you. So that's what I thought of sharing. So thank you so much. If there is any question or comments or corrections. Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you, Dvija. Prabhupada mentions in the purport that the activities of Jaya and Vijaya are under the influence of the internal spiritual potency, right? So what about all of those living entities who they thoroughly inconvenienced and tortured and, just made life hell for, right? Do they get benefit as well?
I didn't get the question, Prabhu. So the people who are...
Hiranyakashipu, for example,
yes,
was famous for torturing, brahmanas and others. So
if they get the benefit?
Prabhupada says that, their activities were performed under the influence of it wasn't a material activity. Yet if we objectively look at what they were doing, they were torturing brahmanas and devotees. So did they benefit from that?
From getting Jaya and Vijay's association?
We have to assume, I think, that they did. But that's quite challenging if you look at it from the external point of view. They were quite a problem. Not just for the Lord, but for everybody.
Yes. I think.
How do we understand that?
But one thing that I was thinking of is how Krishna's pastimes are so dramatic, and so it's if for him or for his devotees, they are for the devotees also when they're acting, when they're engaged in such activities, it's only to speed up the process and the pastimes of Krishna's appearance. And in terms of what happens to those people, I'm not sure. To be honest.
Just on that middle point, I think
Okay.
In Hiranyakashipu's body, you have two jivas. One is Hiranyakashipu's demon, and second is Jaya, devotee. So, whatever the bad thing was done, it was done by the demon Hiranyakashipu. And similarly, when his brother Hiranyaksha was passed away, Hiranyakashipu gave a beautiful lecture. If you read Bhagavatam, he says to the mother, Diti, saying, don't worry, Hiranyaksha is not the body, he's the soul, he's dead. If you see, so that is given by Jaya. So it is actually the activities performed by Hiranyakashipu is dual, similar to Karna. Karna is also a split personality. On one side is Dvija, on another side he's got the demon within him. So, whatever the bad thing was done, of course Hiranyaksha is the instigator and he will definitely get the bad reward for it. But Jaya within Hiranyakashipu, he does the good thing and then he gets the reward. That's how I heard.
That's how you heard. Okay. What's the source book? Where is it from?
This is actually in Tantra Sara, Founder-Acharya course, similarly with Shishupal as well.
Okay.
So when we say Shishupal gets liberated, it is actually the Jaya within Shishupal. There is a demon called Shishupal as well. He doesn't get liberated. So.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Yes.
Thank you for the nice class. You said how we accept the humble position in book distribution because the outsiders, they don't know what services we have in the temple. But sometimes we say there are some people who appreciate our service that we're doing in the sun. They give us drinks, they give us fruits, and they treat us like gods. So
It does get what?
they treat us like gods. So we get even more respect from how much we get in the temple. So how can we take that?
How should we take the respect that we get in the temple?
No, we get more respect than we get in the temple in books. So how can we take that?
I understood the part where you're saying that in the temple we're getting a lot of respect from devotees, and then what was the second part?
So you're saying that you said that sometimes in the books we don't get that respect.
Yes.
But they don't
In books we don't get that respect.
But sometimes in the books they treated us more respectfully than the temple, and they give us so many things, and then they appreciate we are in the sun.
Oh, really?
So then they treat us like we are gods.
Oh, okay.
So then
So the question is,
then we get
yeah.
so
So
how to take that?
how to take that? The question is, in the temple we do get respect for what services we do, but although we often don't get much respect on book distribution, sometimes we get respect where people treat us like gods. People treat us like gods, like people that we're giving books to, and that they give us a lot of respect. So how do we take that? How should we receive that? Well, I haven't met many like that. It's pretty special if you met someone like that. But then if they treat you like God, then you say, yes, the God is coming and is giving you this book. so you have to take this and give God all your money because it's coming from God. So we can utilize everything in Krishna service, even when we get a lot of respect, which actually sometimes people do. Sometimes people from India can give us respect, but also people, sometimes even the locals, even the Western people have, like a lot of times people have told me that actually what you're doing is amazing. He said, no one does like this, and then they really want to reciprocate. And that's great. So by respecting us, they're respecting what we're doing, and they're respecting Prabhupada. So we understand that actually we are out here on the instructions of our spiritual master and other devotees. And so really we are representing them. And so whatever respect we are receiving is actually is actually due them, those devotees. So we don't really take it personally. We understand that, and we actually appreciate that when they respect us, because in that way they're respecting Prabhupada and his mission. They're respecting Mahaprabhu and his mission. And I can't remember the source of this quote, but it is said that even when the Harinam party is going on, and if someone offers the obeisances, it's considered they make great advancement because ultimately they're offering obeisances to Mahaprabhu and is his mission and his Sankirtan. So yeah, they give us respect. We can certainly, we should utilize that to say that yes, it's a very special cause what we're doing, and you must take these books, and it's very special. It's coming to you for a reason. It's God's arrangement that you are getting this book, so now you should read it. And for us, we don't take it personally, because we know that without their instructions, we won't be doing what we're doing. So it's really not us. It's okay. Thank you. Okay, if there's nothing else, thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Kanthara Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai, Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai.